While we continue our analysis of AngloGold's second quarter production numbers, that's with Jacques Botha, Chief Mining Economist at Afriforesight. Jacques, good to have you with us in our Cape Town studios. Maybe a good place to pick up on is the presence of a mining company, or rather of AngloGold Ashanti on the rest of the continent. You might have picked up when I asked Venkat if it's better to be on the continent. He says there's no other option. Either you're on the African continent or not, and you're losing out on an opportunity there.
I think I agree with him totally. I really like their strategy, their mix, their global mix, how they spread their risks. Yeah, I think, and the results, if you want to, just a quick comment on that, I think they've exceeded their guidances, and I think it's a very, very well-run company, and they've come with their new strategy since Venkat came in charge. I really like the strategy, and they're following that. And I think that's the way to manage for gold mining in the future.
Jacques, they're still losing money.
Yeah, very good point. And there is a risk. The gold mining industry was built on anticipation. I spoke to CEOs of gold mining houses a year ago who felt very comfortable in buying mines that were mines feasibilities. They would go through feasibilities where the gold price was $1,500 and more, not under that, and they couldn't even imagine that gold would be under 1.5. Now, I think AngloGold Ashanti is more into reality there, and the way they're managing their portfolio, I think that you could see. I think the projections. I really haven't gone that time to spin through every sort of all the numbers yet. But they're going in the right direction, and they are exceeding their targets that they have made. I'm very impressed with their cash cost that it's costing them now to produce an ounce of gold at 836. And even their sustainable cash costs, as you know, the gold mining industry has been very brave to also promise to the market that they will keep on their operations at a certain cost, and the sustainable cost is 1064, which is also still, so even if the gold price falls a bit, well, more, if the gold price falls another $100 or another $200, they could still theoretically make a profit. So of the gold miners, I think they're definitely one of my bets, and I'm over the long term, I'm fairly bullish about the gold price. Over the shorter term, next 2 years, there are risks, and the price could even come down further.
Just on that, I want us to touch on, you mentioned that you're very bullish on the gold price going forward. Then as AngloGold Ashanti as a stock pick, share price year to date is up by 60%. Is this something where you put your money in?
I actually have. I bought them after Venkat became an iReady strategy. I actually bought Anglo. I'm happy to say I bought some of his shares. And I think it's definitely a stock pick. But it's not there are risks. The global story at this stage, gold has had a nice run because of geopolitical concerns. The two big stories, the Iraqi story, the IS story, and then the Russian story. But both those stories are actually, things happened this weekend that make those stories less of a threat. So it could even be that gold could soften this week again. But there are other factors and that actually I'm very positive that could drive the gold price higher over the next few years.
Jacques, and that's always a big risk when you're going into the gold sector, that you have geopolitical or big global issues. But I liked what Neil Froneman said last week when he was in our studio. He's a hard rock miner, so anything to do with hard rock, he'd be happy to get into. AngloGold Ashanti is also a hard rock miner. Do you think it would be an idea for them to also consider platinum, maybe even a merger with AngloPlat, which seems to have its problems, where AngloGold Ashanti seems to be perhaps better managed?
That's actually quite an interesting idea. I really think AngloGold Ashanti knows how to mine hard rock, especially more on the sort of high-tech side. I mean, I was amazed that after these earthquakes, that they could actually electronically assess the damage from a controlled room all over the mines. Now that's high tech. And then you've got Neil Froneman, who's really mining the sort of difficult old mines, which is low tech, high labor. It's almost like a war zone down there. So yes, I think AngloPlat is also high tech, but it may not be a bad idea, and they could. I would actually spread my risk in my portfolio. Over the long term, I'm more bullish about the platinum price than the gold price. So it makes sense, I think.
More bullish on the platinum price than the gold price. Just to close off with, Jacques, it's interesting that Alec touched on the cost measures, which no doubt are something that has contributed positively to AngloGold Ashanti's numbers, but there needs to be a future growth story. You've touched on one. Is there another one that Venkat and other gold producers can consider?
A future gold story on the price?
Growth story. Growth story.
Growth story. I think it's just to be very good. What they're doing, which is what they're doing. You cannot, and this is the future of mining. The super cycles, the big, you can't bargain on another big honeymoon or whatever. And I really think they are very, very cautious and very, very efficient. And that's the way it's going to go. It's economies of scale, and you've got to decide whether you're going to be a high-tech producer or a high labor producer. One of the two, not to try and sit on both chairs and fall in the middle, like some miners have done. So I think the fact that they're doing a very professional, high-tech, but also knowing their markets, now understanding Africa. Even in Africa, I think they're moving slightly more to the high-tech side, but they're doing it very efficiently. So I think there's definitely a growth story there.